in completing a PhD at Ohio State. And at that time, it was most common, no matter where you got your PhD, whether it was Harvard, Princeton, it didn't matter, that the pattern of segregation in hiring, the academic marketplace, was almost totally segregated. And so even famous people like W.E.B. Du Bois, you can remember the most famous African-American intellectuals or scholars, and they all worked at, like Howard, Fisk, or at historically, what we now call historically black colleges and universities. So in the 60s, there was a colleague of mine, Marcus Alexis is his name, and he and I just developed, mainly heavily through his influence, the expectation was that once I finished at Ohio State, I was going to go to a black school. But we decided that, well, no, there were better opportunities because those schools didn't have graduate programs, they didn't have the resources. So if you really wanted to have a successful career in sort of publishing in the mainstream of the profession, you really needed opportunities that could be provided at major universities. So there was a fellow at Western, Irwin Maya was his name, but he was chair of the Business, Government, and Society. And in those days, you didn't have faculty visit. You could be hired in many of the schools on the basis of your resume and the faculty visits and so on. So I sent in my resume, and that included a picture. He removed pictures from all of the applications, and it ended up being mainly down to 3 individuals. He removed the pictures, presented the resumes to the faculty at Western, and then they agreed that I had the best background and the best qualifications and so on. So I was offered the job. A big transition that happened in the 1960s and 70s, where there were a number of firsts, and not just in business, but in the university here at Washington, in any field, until the late 1960s, there were no African American faculty. So that was a huge, major change in hiring, in the culture, in the way in which individuals of color were received and perceived in the 1960s. And this was a part of the civil rights movement, a part of affirmative action, that major universities like UW and UCLA and so on actually themselves began to desegregate the faculty. From 61 to 69 at Western, you got the chance to go to be hired at USC by giving up tenure, and was at UCLA from 69 to 72, so it was 3 years. And I was denied tenure after 1 year there because I still didn't have the publication. But by the 3rd year, I had continued to publish, and by then I'd done the other work in teaching and service and so on. And so I did get promoted at UCLA, but by then the opportunity opened to come here, and I was more interested in making that change. The Business Economic Development Project, the program began as a result of one other faculty member here by the name of David Gauchi. He and I had this interest and realized that, well, if we could enrich the learning experience if we shifted from just classroom work to outreach and problem solving. So by the mid-94, he and I started actually an MBA course that dealt with, we called it business and economic development. And so we offered this course, and it turns out that Michael Verschow was one of the students in that in that course and in that program, and he got the idea, well, there's a way to organize this that is that can build it and find a way to, because you need more than one or two professors doing this on their own. So it started out with Michael and a colleague of his doing a concept paper on business development. And then and actually there's another sort of famous name involved in this now, but David Gauchi and myself, and then the third faculty member, Ali Tarhouni, who is now the very famous former faculty member here, who's gone on to Libya to be a part of that revolutionary movement. But so anyway, so you had faculty, you had interested graduate students, and then from the concept paper, then we said, yeah, hey, great idea. Let's see how we can do it. And then we went from there to building up the other pieces. And I like getting advisors, connected with the Rotary Club. And so that out of their experiences, a class project initially, a concept paper, and then getting others involved in doing, like getting an advisory board, getting the money to really hire Michael. He's been at this from from the end of his MBA program until now, making a difference in people's lives through organizational activities, meaning that not just teaching and influencing students, but establishing organized programs such as BEDC, now the Business Economic Development Center. Having focused my activities in ways that now are supported by other individuals. So through the Business Economic Development Project, with now the Business Economic Development Center, because that is educational, because it provides for community contributions, ways of people giving back to the university and providing financial support. So all of that as making a difference in the institution, so that there's something that will be a part of the University of Washington that I could say I contributed in important ways to having that development and making a difference.